Delve into one book daily, and today we're diving into How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you ever wanted to speak up in a meeting but stayed silent for fear of disagreement? Argued with your partner until you won the point, only to be left with a cold distance? Tried to drive team collaboration, yet felt like you're fighting alone? We're stuck between wanting to be understood and not knowing how to express ourselves, craving connection but hitting walls repeatedly. We think it's a lack of ability, but in reality, we haven't grasped the underlying logic of human nature. This book, born a century ago, still accurately captures the social dilemmas of modern people, becoming a timeless survival guide. With over 30 million copies sold worldwide and translated into dozens of languages, it has become one of the most influential classics on interpersonal relationships in the United States and beyond. To understand how to win friends and influence people, we must first understand Dale Carnegie himself. His life journey is the best illustration of overcoming the dilemmas of human nature. Born into a poor farming family in Missouri, Carnegie was introverted and timid as a child, even inferior due to his family's poverty, often at a loss in social situations. When he was young, he tried to make a living as a speaker, but repeatedly stumbled over his words on stage due to nervousness. These setbacks plunged him into self-doubt. Why can some people easily gain others' trust, while I struggle even to open my mouth? This confusion became the initial motivation for his lifelong exploration of interpersonal relationships. During his years teaching adult education, Carnegie encountered a diverse range of people. Entrepreneurs who dominated the business world but failed at family relationships, talented professionals overlooked because of poor communication skills, and ordinary people longing to maintain intimate relationships but trapped in constant conflicts. He discovered that despite their seemingly different predicaments, all shared a core issue: ignoring the essential needs of human nature. Take one case he documented. George, a corporate executive who rose through the ranks with outstanding professional ability, hit a wall in team management. He was used to assigning tasks in a commanding tone and reprimanding subordinates harshly for mistakes, even publicly criticizing them in meetings for minor errors. George wrote in his diary, "I'm clearly doing what's best for the team, hoping they correct their mistakes quickly. Why are they becoming more and more resistant? Some even delay work rather than report to me proactively." This is a trap many of us fall into, measuring relationships by right and wrong, while forgetting that the primary human need is respect. Analyzing the case, Carnegie pointed out that George's behavior stemmed from a desire for control and a sense of superiority. He equated work performance with his self-worth, ignoring his subordinates' emotional needs as independent individuals. When a person feels only criticism and denial, their focus shifts from solving the problem to self-protection, and resistance takes root. Another memorable case in the book revolves around marital relationships. A couple married for 20 years drifted apart from deep affection to emotional estrangement. The wife complained that her husband never cared about her feelings, while the husband felt she was being unreasonable. "I prepare meals carefully and take care of the house every day," the wife said. "But when he gets home, he's either staring at his phone or talking about work. He never asks how my day was." The husband, in turn, felt wronged. "I work hard every day for this family. Why can't she understand my stress?" Their conflict perfectly illustrates the dilemma of communication misalignment. Both were giving for each other, but in the way they thought was right, not what the other needed. When Carnegie talked to the couple, he asked each to express their deepest desire. The wife wanted to be seen, to have her efforts recognized, and to have her husband spend time listening to her. The husband wanted to be understood, to have his stress acknowledged instead of being labeled cold. This detailed sketch captures the core pain of intimate relationships. We often mistake self-sacrifice for love, forgetting to first understand the other person's needs. As Carnegie wrote in the book, the deepest craving of human nature is the need to be appreciated. This desire transcends status, position, and wealth. It's an instinct woven into every person's being. Throughout these cases, Carnegie emphasized a core insight. The essence of interpersonal relationships is meeting each other's human needs. He documented Lillian, an insurance salesperson who struggled for months without closing a single policy. She began to doubt if she was cut out for the job, and even considered quitting. Every time I met a client, I rushed to introduce the benefits of the insurance policy, telling them why they needed it, Lillian recalled. But clients either brushed me off or refused outright. I felt like an unwelcome selling machine. This is a common problem for many salespeople, focusing too much on closing the deal and ignoring building trust. Later, Lillian followed Carnegie's advice and changed her approach. Instead of pushing products, she first listened to her clients' needs. Once, she met a mother worried about her child's future education. Instead of immediately promoting an education insurance plan, Lillian shared her own parenting experiences and listened to the mother's anxieties and concerns. After the mother opened up, Lillian gently explained how insurance could secure her child's education and helped her choose a plan tailored to her family's situation. Not only did the mother buy the policy, but she also recommended Lillian to her friends. I finally realized that people don't choose you because your product is good, Lillian reflected. They choose you because they trust you. And trust begins with being willing to truly enter their hearts. This creates a stark contrast. Lillian's former approach was self-centered, focusing only on her goals and ignoring her clients' emotional needs. Her transformed approach was other-oriented, meeting the need to be heard and understood first, then achieving her own objectives. This contrast teaches us that interpersonal relationships are not a zero-sum game, not a battle to win at someone else's expense, but a mutual journey toward win-win. The more you satisfy others' human needs, the more respect and trust you gain, and that respect and trust ultimately become the foundation for your own success. Carnegie also addressed an often overlooked detail in the book, the art of criticism. Criticism is a double-edged sword, he said. It can point out problems, but it can also destroy a person's self-confidence. He documented John, a coach whose team was struggling with poor performance and low morale. Initially, John criticized his players harshly for mistakes after every practice, even berating them for minor passing errors. As a result, the players became increasingly afraid of failing, held back in games, and the team's record worsened. John was consumed by anxiety. I only want them to improve. Why is everything backfiring? The psychological logic here is that criticism triggers a defensive response. When repeatedly criticized, a person begins to doubt themselves and may even give up trying. Later, John changed his approach. Instead of criticizing mistakes directly, he first acknowledged his players' efforts, then gently pointed out areas for improvement. For example, when a player made a bad pass, he would say, "Your movement was aggressive and your strategy was solid. A more precise pass would have made all the difference." This approach made the players feel respected and encouraged. They stopped fearing failure, started actively trying to improve, and the team's performance gradually turned around. John's transformation confirms Carnegie's point. One of human nature's weaknesses is the fear of rejection. Rather than destroying someone with criticism, guide them with encouragement. In How to Win Friends and Influence People, Carnegie also delved into vanity as a human trait. He noted that many people struggle socially because they care too much about others' opinions and seek recognition through showing off. He documented Robert, an entrepreneur who amassed great wealth through hard work but remained trapped in anxiety. Robert bought luxury goods, attended high-end social events frequently, and deliberately flaunted his wealth and status in conversations. Yet he noticed that while people treated him politely on the surface, they didn't truly accept him. Some even mocked him as shallow behind his back. Robert's inner monologue. "I have the wealth everyone envies. Why do I still feel lonely? I thought success would earn me everyone's respect, but that's not the case." Analyzing the case, Carnegie pointed out that vanity stems from inner insecurity. The more a person lacks self-identity, the more they rely on external possessions and others' approval to prove their worth. But true respect is never gained through showing off. It's earned through character and competence. As Carnegie wrote, True maturity is learning to accept yourself, no longer needing others' approval to validate your worth. The book also includes a touching case about forgiveness. Anna, a woman, was trapped in pain for years, unable to let go of a betrayal by a friend who had stolen her job opportunity, causing her great harm. "I think about it every day," Anna said. "Just thinking about her fills me with resentment. It's like a thorn in my heart, preventing me from being happy." Carnegie told her that resentment is essentially punishing yourself for someone else's mistake. When you cling to past hurts, you're not hurting others, you're hurting yourself. With Carnegie's guidance, Anna began to let go of her resentment. She tried to put herself in her friend's shoes, understanding that her friend, born into poverty and desperate to change her fate, had made a mistake. While the friend's actions were unforgivable, Anna gradually realized that holding on to resentment only trapped her in the past. When she finally let go, she freed herself from the pain and rediscovered happiness. This case teaches us that one of human nature's weaknesses is being consumed by hatred. Forgiveness is not about letting others off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. The principles Carnegie summarized in the book are not made up. They come from profound insights into human nature and years of practical experience. He emphasized that there are no shortcuts to interpersonal relationships. Only by sincerely respecting, understanding, and accepting others can we build lasting connections. As he wrote, "If you want to be liked, learn to sincerely care about others. If you want to be trusted, learn to respect others' opinions. If you want to collaborate, learn to meet others' needs." These seemingly simple principles contain profound wisdom about human nature. The reason How to Win Friends and Influence People remains a bestseller after a century is that it captures the most essential human needs that never change, no matter the era. Whether it's Americans 100 years ago or us today, we all crave respect, understanding, and appreciation, and we all face similar social dilemmas. The book's deeper theme is never about teaching us to manipulate others, but to understand human nature, to live gently with ourselves, with others, and with the world. In this fast-paced, high-pressure era, we seem to be getting better at pursuing efficiency and results, but worse at nurturing relationships. We're used to sending cold texts on WeChat instead of listening to each other face-to-face. We measure value by data, overlooking the importance of emotion. We long for deep connections, yet fear being hurt if we open up. This contradictory state leaves many of us feeling lonely and anxious. How to Win Friends and Influence People tells us that the key to resolving these issues lies in returning to human nature itself. One of the book's revelations for modern readers is learning to let go of self-centered thinking. Often, our struggles in relationships stem from seeing the world only from our own perspective, ignoring others' feelings and needs. At work, conflicts with colleagues arise when we focus solely on our own goals and refuse to compromise. In intimate relationships, constant arguments happen when we expect others to accommodate us without trying to understand their hardships. Learning to empathize, seeing things from another's perspective, is the foundation of healthy relationships. The second revelation is replacing criticism with encouragement and denial with affirmation. In this competitive era, we all face enormous pressure and deeply desire recognition and encouragement. A kind word of encouragement can ignite someone's motivation, while a sharp criticism can shatter their self-confidence. Whether with colleagues, partners, family, or friends, we should practice more tolerance and encouragement, and less blame and denial. As Carnegie said, "Encouragement is like sunlight. It illuminates a person's heart. Criticism is like rain. It dampens their enthusiasm." The third revelation is accepting imperfection in ourselves and others. Human nature is full of weaknesses. We all have flaws and make mistakes. Instead of obsessing over perfection, we should learn to embrace imperfection. Accepting our own flaws frees us from inferiority and anxiety, helping us build strong self-identity. Accepting others' flaws allows us to practice compassion and understanding, fostering long-lasting relationships. As the book's cases show, those who embrace others' shortcomings and forgive their mistakes often earn the most respect and trust. Furthermore, How to Win Friends and Influence People teaches us that true success is not just professional achievement, but harmonious relationships. No matter how much wealth or status a person has, without sincere friends and a loving family, they will still feel lonely and empty. In this fast-paced world, we're often distracted by fame and fortune, neglecting the people around us. The book reminds us to slow down, nurture our relationships, and cherish those who truly care for us. For only genuine human connection can bring us lasting happiness and warmth. We don't need to feel inferior about our social skills or discouraged by relationship setbacks. Human weaknesses are not terrifying. What's terrifying is ignoring or avoiding them. How to Win Friends and Influence People holds up a mirror, helping us see our shortcomings and learn to use the laws of human nature to improve our relationships. As long as we sincerely respect, understand, and care for others, we can overcome the dilemmas of human nature and build meaningful connections of our own. How to Win Friends and Influence People is never a one-size-fits-all social manual, but a gentle guide to human nature. It teaches us that the core of relationships is never tricks, but sincerity, not manipulation, but understanding. In this era of alienation, may we carry the wisdom of this book, learning to live gently with others and reconcile with ourselves. May we hold on to our sincerity and kindness in complex relationships, earn the respect and trust of others, and embrace full happiness and warmth. No summary can replace the original work. A good book is worth reading page by page. I'm Paper Campfire. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to our next encounter.